You know, my heart sits in my stomach right now because I know what the outcome of this is going to be. I'm sorry for getting a little emotional, but I've lived personally and professionally in this space, legislatively as well. People will die as a result of this bill. It's not just a fact, it's also a prediction. We've seen it in other states, and these facilities sometimes are not perfect, but we actually have good ones. In the state of Georgia, they shut down all these facilities. Hundreds of people died. And not people like you and me, Mr. Chair. People who can't speak for themselves. It was so bad in the state of Georgia that they had to send the federal government in. They might not, some will die in transition because they're medically complex and fragile. Some will die later. In community settings where the housing is not built, where there's no skilled nursing or available workforce, where there's no mega expensive equipment for them. It's a lot like Housing First, things like we did during COVID, where we put drug-addicted homeless people into houses all by themselves to die. It's cruel. These residents couldn't come to our committee. I'm thankful that although my kids are disabled, that they weren't this gravely disabled. This isn't taxes, this isn't a budget. This isn't even a facility. This is human beings. The most vulnerable human beings in our state. These facilities were set up because we had a social and moral obligation to these people who are wards of the state. But they also have families. Families who cannot physically take care of them. And those people waited all day to say their piece on this bill. And they got 1 minute to try to save their kids. That's wrong, you guys. I will do anything to stop this bill. I will work with every single member of this committee to offset the savings, which I don't believe there will be a savings to this bill. There won't. As Rep. Penner said, whatever savings we get will be completely destroyed because you can't put a price tag on a human life. Yeah, they're not like the rest of us, but they are human beings. They dream as well. They bleed the same red blood as the rest of us. They deserve the best care and education and outcomes as we can give them. Instead of closing these down, we should focus on making our facilities better. I'm sorry for the emotion, but I know what will happen. This is a grave, grave mistake. And like I said, I will work with anybody to try to find whatever money you think is going to save this. But this is not what we should be doing. I understand, I've heard from both sides, professionally and otherwise. I worked for a nonprofit that served people with disabilities, finding employment which was meaningful for their lives, vocational rehab so that they could work. My own kids, and in the legislature here, I've made this like one of my championed causes to do everything I can to find progress for these people, but this isn't progress. I beg everybody on this committee to please put this bill down. There's a mix of people who believe that we should get rid of institutions like RHCs, Rainier School, and Yakima Valley School at any cost. But is it worth any cost? The cost of human life? There's a reason why these people exist at these schools, because they already failed to be placed in community settings. Community settings that right now do not even truly exist in all the places they need to exist. This bill is wrong, and I truly understand the thoughts of many people who don't want institutions. But it's the people who never had to live in the institutions who want to end them. It's the families and the residents who must live in the institutions who are fighting and begging to keep them. It is not a line item in a budget to them, it is their lives. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Couture. Is there any further discussion? Representative Penner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Also urging a no and saying thank you to my colleague, Representative Couture. I think a lot of us in this room, a lot in the community, see this bill with a lot of fear. We talk about closing these facilities at any cost. A cost is a plan, and this bill doesn't accommodate a plan. We've sought to incorporate a plan. There have been discussions to try to incorporate ways to make this bill better, so that way we could walk forward together. Not because we want to close down RHCs, some of us don't, but some of us recognize that you don't always get what you want, and that sometimes the compromise is a thing that both people can disagree on least. Mr. Chair, you're going to hear every argument here and more as this conversation goes forward. It's excruciating right now. It's going to continue to be excruciating because this is life and death for the people who can't speak. They can't speak. We can't hear them. They will die in silence because they live in silence. Here's a short story. It's only a couple paragraphs, but it's absolutely haunted me because it speaks to experiences I see with my family and I see with the families of people around my community who can't articulate their situations maybe in a way that I've been blessed to be able to be here to do. Rainier staff stayed 3 days to work with this person because this person was transitioned out of Rainier School because of previous closure. Rainier staff stayed 3 days at the facility and worked on all 3 shifts to better orient this person's new staff supports. 3 days was not enough to set the staff up for success, as it had taken years to understand this person's way of communicating and verbal expressions. This person was not a one-on-one situation at Rainier School. They had an enclosed, safe environment, a place where they could engage in the community, a place where they were honestly thriving after they transitioned to this new community facility. Every visit, I saw him lose his freedom and the light in his eyes fade. He went from having little to no supervision while in his living unit to becoming a client that needed one-on-one staffing ratio where staff were assigned to him 24/7. When I visited with another client who was moving into the same building, I saw him sitting next to a window and staring out the window. I talked to him for a bit and he seemed to light up just for a moment. I don't have the heart to read the rest of this letter. We can support people. We can close RHCs responsibly if that is what the majority wants. But we can't do it through the vehicle of this bill. This bill says we're going to close them in 18 months. By gosh darn it, we're going to close them and we'll let the community sort it out. This pervasive myth of community care. Where is it? Because if it existed, I wouldn't have this odd mixture of labor telling me it doesn't exist, advocates telling me it doesn't exist, people who care for their children telling me it doesn't exist, guardians telling me it doesn't exist. I don't know where this community care is. I know it's a great statement to say the community will step up. Where are they? We could appropriate $500 million to build community care facilities. It'll take 15 years to build them. This problem is more than just lack of capacity. It touches on probably every committee in this building. Because we have the inability to build, we have the inability to house, we have the inability to budget, we have the inability to do so many things that we need to do to protect this community. And until we get that stuff figured out, we need to protect them. Because there is no community care. There might be on one-off situations. There might be for aspects of the disability community. But these are not aspects of the community. These are the most substantially disabled people who can't articulate for themselves their needs, who have to work with people and live with people who understand the nuances of the way they look at them, to understand that they might be hungry or in pain or need to move. I know that this is not an issue that everybody in here can bring into their heart. Of course, we're all human beings, but we have zones of genius. I know when I'm trying to articulate a zone, when I'm trying to understand an issue about some healthcare policy, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. So I listen to the people around me. I think this is something that if this is not your zone of genius, you need to ask somebody. Because this is a vote that is going to haunt people. Shutting this down without a plan will haunt you. I urge a no on this. I urge us to go back to the drawing board and say, if we're going to be serious about closing these things down, let's come back next session and figure out a bill. Let's come back in 2 years and appropriate. Let's figure it out. This is not figuring it out. Urge a no.